The world economy's prospect looks bleak owing to COVID-19. The global health crisis is rapidly morphing into a global recession as there is a clear tension between preventing infections and ruining the economy. Good evening and thanks for joining us today. More than 3.9 billion people, or half of the world's population, have now been asked or ordered to stay at home by their governments to prevent the spread of the deadly COVID-19 virus. The latest update shows some encouraging signs as European nations report of falling numbers of COVID-19 cases, while the US entered a peak of terrible pandemic with total deaths were approaching 10,000, more than 3 times the number killed in the 9/11 attacks on World Trade Center in New York. New York City's cemeteries even have been overwhelmed due to the soaring number of deaths, making officials consider to temporarily bury dead on the public land. The coronavirus is first and foremost a human tragedy. It does not only cause people ill, lose their life, but also make them suffer financially.
Hello, my name is Hans. I'm just here to give a short story about what happened to my situation in this corona pandemic. Personally, I had to self-isolate because it's actually a panic state here in Australia. And secondly, I had to shut down my business because I deal with food and I deal with the universities. So I had to relocate out of Brisbane to isolate and at the same time work with a government-based company that is self-isolating so they can still dig and do what they need to do for the government. The pandemic is not very bad here in Australia, but the people here hasn't experienced anything like this before, so it basically has affected everything in my life, because all my life is about hospitality, and all hospitality in Australia is shut down, including my business. But there's a light at the end of the tunnel, and we need to look at that. And my business is on hold. I will restart when all this is over. And you know, on a personal note, my rental properties is all gone still, because all my tenants are students, international students that rely on casual work and income to pay rent, which they do not have, and no income, no rent. And so that's a trickle effect, because now I have put my commitments on hold because they can't give me money for rent, and obviously I can't kick them out and start charging the money, because there's no money coming in from anybody. It's the same situation for everybody here. So my situation is pretty dark, but I think at the end of it, it's going to be all right. People just need to stop panicking, is my personal feeling. I'm not panicking yet. I have lost a great deal and I'm in a pickle, but it'll be fine. It'll be fine.
This is Sun, and I'm very happy to be here today to share with you my experience working from home. I mean, if you know me, you know that I have a small restaurant in Saigon. So as of right now, everything has to be shut down. But luckily though, in Saigon, you still be able to do home deliveries. So what we have been doing is cutting the staff back a lot, actually more than half. And have everybody come in and rotating so that everybody could earn a little bit of money instead of having everybody staying at home and making no money at all. And that has been actually going really well. And I think after all of the panicking set in and you slowly get used to the momentum of how we have to adjust our lives to be able to adapt to this environment, I think everybody is pretty content and happy that they are able to actually make a little bit of income, and know that we as business owner, we really want to help us to get through this together. That's take a little bit of adjustment, but I think it come out pretty good in the end.
Hello viewers, we are back to IPO News with me, Thanh Vân. Yes, everyone is suffering. The world economy enters an unprecedented crisis. In the US, more than 6.6 US workers filed new claims for unemployment benefits last week, on top of 3.3 million a week earlier, marking unprecedented devastation across the labor market. The jobless rate today is almost certainly higher at any point since the Great Depression in 1930s. The pandemic has prompted many economists to focus on ways to address it and anticipate its aftermath. I would like to have a chat with Mr. William Poulou, Master in Economics and Finance at ESPC Business School in Paris, to understand how this pandemic affects the global economy. Bonsoir, Monsieur William. So can you tell me how bad is the economic impact caused by COVID-19? Is it going to be worse than the 2008 recession, in your opinion?
But the main difference between the COVID-19 and the 2008 recession is that during this one, a significant part of workers cannot operate as they could in the past. Therefore, lots of contracts are being cut due to the lack of confidence and visibility in the near future. So if some industries benefit from this crisis, such as the e-commerce sector, I think most sectors really suffer from this crisis. As of today, it seems pretty obvious to say that the extent of this recession will be significantly higher than in 2008. If the 2008 recession was caused by internal factors to the system, this one is caused by external elements that we could not master.
The coronavirus has been relentless. It has taken the notion of global interdependence to the point of criticality. The virus is now setting off a cascade of health, economic, and social effects that challenges globalization.
So, you know that the pandemic has exposed the market vulnerabilities. So, do you think that the virus can put an end for the globalization?
I think this is the first time since modern times that we see something like this. And this is really complicated to assess the extent of the damages on the economy. On the other hand, these financial institutions are more capable of resisting this crisis this time. The issue of the 2008 financial crisis is mainly due to the fact that most banks and insurances didn't have enough equity to absorb their losses. Financial regulations have put an end on this, and now I cannot say that they are not fully prepared, but the capacity to handle this crisis is much more appropriate than it was before. Then I don't think this crisis will cause the end of globalization, but it is sure that it will oblige governments to find new mechanisms to prevent such future events from having the same negative impact on the economy and on people's health.
Thank you, Poulou, so much for partaking the interview. IPO News will continue with Tu Dương, so don't go anywhere. We'll be right back.
The future still looks very uncertain. We don't know what are waiting for us ahead, but we do know that the whole world is putting efforts in fighting this virus as well as preventing the tragic consequences on the global economies as much as possible. The virtual summit of the G20 today was a defining moment for international cooperation for tackling the global economic consequences that come along with this pandemic. Leaders at the G20 emphasized on the need for a true global fiscal stimulus which aims at funding not only big businesses and lead firms, but to the workers and small to mid-sized enterprises worldwide, especially those in developing countries.
Thank you, Dương, for your info updated from the Summit G20. Hopefully, we can reunite very, very soon. Next episode, maybe? Who knows? So yes, we are living in the most challenging time since the World War II. And what the world needs right now is solidarity. This is also a message delivered by the UN chief, Antonio Guterres. His message will be the conclusion for today's show. So stay strong, stay calm, stay awesome as you always are. Goodbye for now.
What is needed is a large-scale, coordinated and comprehensive multilateral response amounting to at least 10% of global GDP. Developed countries can do it by themselves, and some are indeed doing so. But we must massively increase the resources available to the developing world. Everything we do, during and after this crisis, must be with a strong focus on building more equal, inclusive and sustainable economies and societies that are more resilient in the face of pandemics, climate change, and the many other global challenges we face. What the world needs now is solidarity.